My nephew raised his wine glass and laughed. Uncle Walter means well, but he was just a janitor. He doesn't understand real business. 8 people heard him. None of them knew I had spent that morning handing his forged loan papers to an attorney. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood to leave. Then the steakhouse doors opened at exactly 7:42, and the county judge walked straight toward me with his arms wide. Before I tell you why that judge hugged me, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Like and subscribe if you've ever stayed quiet while someone mistook your kindness for weakness. My name was Walter Hayes. I was 70 years old, and I had spent 38 years working as a custodian at the Franklin County Courthouse. People saw the uniform, the mop, and the ring of keys at my belt. They rarely noticed that I remembered every face, every locked door, and every document left where it did not belong. Retirement had slowed my steps, but it had never dulled my attention. Derek was my sister's only son. After she died, I tried to be the steady person in his life. I helped when I could, and for a long time, I believed he was only going through a rough patch. The first request came in March. He called me at 8:10 on a Monday morning and said his renovation company was short on payroll. Just for 5 days, Uncle Walter, he told me, I have a commercial payment clearing Friday. He needed $6,400. I transferred it before lunch. Friday passed. Then another week. When I asked about it, he sighed as if I had embarrassed him. You know how business works? He said. Money moves slowly. I did know how money worked. I had lived on a courthouse salary for 38 years. I had paid off my house, carried no credit card balance, and saved every month. But I let it go. In May, Derek asked me to guarantee a business line of credit. He sat at my kitchen table in a tailored blue jacket and spread 12 pages in front of me. It's only a backup, he said. The bank requires someone with stable assets. How much? $48,000. And if you don't pay? He smiled. I will pay. That was not an answer, but I signed after he promised the money would only cover materials for 2 confirmed jobs. 3 weeks later, Melissa posted photographs from a resort in Scottsdale. The room had a private terrace. Derek wore a watch that cost more than my first car. When I called, he said the trip was for networking. The right clients expect a certain image, he explained. I asked whether the credit line had paid for it. His voice hardened. You're thinking like an employee, Uncle Walter. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. I looked around my kitchen. The same old cabinets had been there since 1998. They worked. I never saw a reason to replace something just because a newer version existed. Derek saw that as failure. By summer, the favors became regular. $800 for an insurance deductible, $1,200 for a supplier, $3,000 for an emergency permit issue. Each time, he promised repayment after the next closing. Each time, the closing moved. Then he began using my house. At first, it sounded harmless. He asked whether he could list my address as the stable mailing location for his company while his office lease was renewed. I agreed for 30 days. Within 2 months, I received notices from a flooring distributor, a tool rental company, and a collections office. All were addressed to Derek's company at my home. I stacked them on my desk. When Derek came over, I handed him the pile. This stops today, I said. He barely looked at the envelopes. Those departments send automatic notices. It doesn't mean anything. It means my address is attached to debts I didn't make. He laughed once. No one is coming. After your little house. My little house. I had bought it in 1986. I had replaced the roof myself. I had cared for my wife there through her final illness. Every room held part of my life. Derek had never paid $1 toward it. Change the address by Friday, I said. He stood and tucked the letters under his arm. Fine. But this is why people in our family never build anything. Everyone gets scared the moment paperwork shows up. That sentence stayed with me. Every boundary was fear. Every question was ignorance. Every kindness was an asset he had not fully used yet. The dinner happened on November 19th at Calder's Steakhouse downtown. Derek said he wanted to thank me in front of people connected to a hotel renovation bid. He told me to wear a jacket. When I arrived, Melissa looked at my brown coat and said, "That's very vintage." It was not a compliment. Derek seated me at the far end of the table. For 20 minutes, he talked about projects, investors, and expansion. He described his company as family-funded. One guest asked whether I was the family investor. Derek glanced at me. Uncle Walter helped a little in the beginning. A little. By then, I had given or guaranteed more than $60,000. Melissa touched his arm. Walter is sweet, but numbers aren't really his world. I set down my fork. Derek lifted his wine glass. He was a janitor at the courthouse, he said. A good one, I'm sure, but business is different. There was a small silence. Then he added, without us, he'd probably be sitting home alone, counting pension checks. They laughed politely. I did not argue, reached into my coat and touched the folded notice I had received that afternoon. It was from First County. Bank.A loan secured by my property had missed its first payment. The original amount was not $48,000, it was $215,000. The bank notice had arrived at 3:17 that afternoon. Had almost placed it with Derek's other business mail, but my full name was printed beneath his company's name. Walter Hayes, property guarantor. I opened it at my kitchen table. The first page said the November payment of $4,286 had been returned. The second page listed my house as collateral for a $215,000 commercial loan. I read the address 3 times. Then I found the signature page. My name appeared in blue ink above the date, September 8th. It looked close enough to fool a stranger. The first letter was tall. The final stroke leaned to the right. But I had signed thousands of maintenance reports, supply orders, and courthouse logs. My real signature ended with a straight line under my last name. This one ended with a loop. More importantly, I had been in Dayton on September 8th, attending the funeral of an old courthouse clerk. I still had the hotel receipt in my desk drawer. I called the number on the notice. A woman named Carla answered from First County Bank's commercial lending department. I need a copy of the full loan file, I said. She asked for my identification details, then paused. Mr. Hayes, our records show you signed these documents in person. Where? At the East Broad Street branch. What time? There was another pause. 11:26 in the morning. At 11:26 that morning, I had been standing beside a grave 70 miles away. I asked who had witnessed the signature. Carla read the name of a temporary loan officer I had never met. Then she mentioned a notarized property authorization. That was when the hurt disappeared. Stopped thinking about Derek as my sister's boy. I stopped remembering his first bicycle, his college graduation, and every promise he had made at my kitchen table. I looked only at the facts. Someone had copied my signature. Someone had used my home to borrow $215,000, and someone had expected me to keep covering the payments once the bank came. Calling, "Please place a fraud alert on the account," I said. Carla's voice became careful. "I'll need to transfer you to our security department. Do that, and email me every document connected to this loan." While I waited, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and removed a gray folder. Inside were Derek's original $48,000 guarantee, every transfer receipt, every message he had sent, and the written notice ordering him to stop using my address. At 4:02, the loan file reached my inbox. At 4:11, I found the forged property authorization. At 4:18, I called attorney Elaine Porter, who had handled my wife's estate. I told her exactly what I had found. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, Walter, don't call your nephew. Don't warn him. Bring me everything before the bank closes. I placed the papers in my courthouse briefcase. For the first time in months, I felt no confusion at all. Elaine Porter's office was 6 blocks from the bank. I arrived at 4:43 with the grey folder under my arm. Her receptionist had already gone home, but Elaine was waiting beside the conference table with her laptop open and a yellow legal pad in front of her. She did not ask how I felt. That was one reason I trusted her. She asked for dates. I gave her the March transfer, the May guarantee, the written notice ordering Derek to stop using my address, the September 8th funeral receipt, and the loan file from First County Bank. She read every page once. Then she returned to the notarized authorization. Did you ever give Derek power of attorney? No. Did you ever sign a mortgage, deed of trust, or property pledge for his company? No. Did you give him a copy of your driver's license? I thought about it. In June, he said the supplier needed identification from the guarantor on the $48,000 credit line. Elaine placed her pen down. That is probably how he built the packet. She showed me the identification page. My license had been copied beside a utility bill from my house. The utility bill was real. The signature was not. The notarization belonged to a woman named Paige Collins. Elaine searched the state notary database. Paige's commission was active, but the seal number on my document was missing 1 digit. That could be a scanning error, Elaine said, or someone may have copied the image of a seal from another document. What happens now? First, we stop the bank from treating this as a normal missed payment. Second, we put the county recorder on notice that the lien is disputed. Third, we preserve every record before anyone has time to alter it. She turned the laptop toward me. The bank has already released $186,000 to Derek's company. $29,000 remains available. Freeze it. I expected you to say that. At 5:06, Elaine called First County Bank's fraud counsel. She put the phone on speaker and identified herself as my attorney. A man named Richard Cole joined the call. Elaine gave him the loan number. My client denies signing the collateral agreement, the mortgage authorization, and the notarial acknowledgement, she said. We are sending a sworn fraud affidavit, proof of his location on the signing date, and verified samples of his real signature. Richard asked me 3 questions. Had I received any benefit from the loan? No. Had I authorized Derek to sign for me? No. Had I ever visited the East Broad Street branch? Not in 9 years. There was a pause. Then Richard said, "We will suspend further withdrawals immediately." I watched the clock turn to 5:14. $29,000. Derek expected to use the next morning had just disappeared from his reach. Elaine did not smile. Neither did I. She emailed the affidavit while we were still on the call. I signed it electronically, then signed a paper copy in front of Elaine's own notary. Richard confirmed that the bank would lock the online loan portal, preserve the branch security footage, and flag every connected account for review. "Will you contact Derek?" I asked. "Not tonight," Richard said. "We do not want him warned before the internal hold is complete." That suited me. Derek was still expecting me at dinner. He believed the bank notice was sitting unopened on my kitchen counter. At 5:28, Elaine called the county recorder's office. The public counter had closed, but electronic recording remained open until 6. She prepared an affidavit of forged instrument and attached the bank notice, my identification, and the date and hotel receipt. "This does not erase the lien by itself," she explained, "but it places a formal dispute in the property record. No careful lender, buyer, or title company will touch your house until the claim is examined." At 5:47, the recorder accepted it. My home was no longer silent. Collateral. It was evidence. Elaine moved to the second problem. The $48,000 line you actually guaranteed has a balance of $31,760, she said. The bank can still pursue you if Derek defaults. I won't let him use another dollar. We can demand that the line be closed to new charges. Because you are the guarantor, the bank may require payment of the existing balance before releasing you. I looked at my savings statement. Paying it would hurt. It would not ruin me. Leaving it open would give Derek another place to hide. Pay it, I said. Elaine studied my face. That makes you the person who covered his debt. We can send a formal demand for reimbursement, but collecting it may take time. I understand. You are not giving him more money, Walter. You are buying your name back. That was exactly how I saw it. At 6:02, I transferred $31,760 directly to the legitimate credit line. The bank closed it and issued written confirmation that no additional charges could be made. Did not send Derek a message. I did not ask for gratitude. I simply removed the weapon from his hand. Then Elaine opened the final document in my folder. It was my will. Derek had been named to receive 25% of my estate. My house was to be sold, with his share placed in trust until he turned 40. That plan had been written when I still believed his worst problem was immaturity. Elaine tapped the page. You do not need to change this tonight. Yes, I do. Do you want to disinherit him completely? I considered the word. Disinherit sounded like punishment. I was not interested in punishment. I was interested in making sure no future kindness could be converted into another signature. Remove him, I said. Leave $10,000 to the courthouse scholarship fund. Put the rest into a trust for the children of county maintenance workers. Elaine nodded once. We signed the new will at 6:31. 2. Employees from the accounting office next door served as witnesses. My estate would no longer reward the man who had tried to borrow. Against it while I was still alive, before I left, Elaine printed a one-page letter. It revoked Derek's permission to use my address, demanded repayment of the $31,760, and ordered him to preserve his emails, loan records, text messages, and accounting files. The final paragraph stated that all communication had to go through her office. You can give him this after dinner, she said. I don't plan to give him anything. Tonight, she raised an eyebrow. I want the bank and the recorder to speak first. At 6:44, my phone vibrated. Derek had sent 3 messages. Where are you? The clients are already here. Please don't show up in that old courthouse coat. I read them without answering. Elaine closed the folder. Go home if you need to, she said. You have done enough for one day. No, I said. I accepted a dinner invitation. I put on my brown coat. As I reached the elevator, my phone rang again. This time, the caller was Judge Samuel Bennett. He and I had worked in the same courthouse for 26 years. That evening, his staff was holding a private retirement dinner on the upper floor of Calder's Steakhouse. I had sent him a note saying I could not attend because of Derek's dinner downstairs. Walter, he said, I received your note. Are you already at Calder's? I'm walking there now. Then come upstairs for 5 minutes. There are people here who want to see you. I have a family obligation. Samuel was silent for a moment. Then he said, In that case, I'll come find you. He ended the call before I could answer. Judge Bennett had noticed me long before he wore a robe. In 1997, when he was a young prosecutor, I found a sealed evidence box abandoned on a public loading dock. I locked it inside the records vault and reported it before sunrise. That box held the original photographs in a murder appeal. If they had disappeared, Samuel's case, and possibly his career, might have collapsed with them. He never forgot what I had done. I never used it to ask him for anything. At 7:03, I entered Calder's Steakhouse. Derek looked relieved when he saw me. He had no idea the bank had frozen his remaining funds. The recorder had flagged the lien. His legitimate credit line had been closed, and his place in my will no longer existed. He only saw my old brown coat, and he mistook my silence for surrender. Derek introduced me as soon as I sat down. "This is my Uncle Walter," he said. He helped me get started. One of the hotel investors leaned across the table. "You must be proud of what he built." Before I could answer, Derek laughed. "Uncle Walter doesn't really understand this side of things. He spent his career cleaning the courthouse." Melissa smiled into her wine glass. "He still keeps every receipt in a folder," she said. "Even grocery receipts." The investors gave polite smiles. Derek raised his glass. "He means well, but he was just a janitor. Business at this level is different." I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. At that moment, a waiter approached with a black card reader. "Mr. Hayes," he said quietly, "there's a problem with the deposit." "For the private room." Derek frowned. "I paid it this morning." The charge was reversed at 5:19. Derek pulled out his phone. "That's impossible." The waiter lowered his voice, but everyone heard him. "The remaining balance is 8,040. We need another payment method before the next course." Melissa's smile disappeared. Derek tried his company card, declined. He tried another, declined. His fingers moved quickly across his banking app. Then he stopped. The color left his face. "Why is the account locked?" One of the investors looked at the other. Derek stood so fast that his chair struck the wall. "There's been a bank error," he said. "Give me 5 minutes." He called the bank. No one answered at that hour except the fraud line. While he waited, the steakhouse doors opened. Judge Samuel Bennett stepped inside with 2 courthouse officials behind him. He scanned the room, saw me, and smiled. Walter Hayes. He walked past Derek and wrapped both arms around me. The table fell silent. Samuel held my shoulders. "This man saved evidence that protected an entire murder appeal," he told them. "More important, he protected the integrity of our courthouse for 38 years. He looked at Derek. Titles never impressed Walter. Character did. Derek stared at me as if I had become someone else. I had not. Samuel invited me upstairs to join his retirement dinner. I stood, buttoned my old brown coat, and thanked the investors for their company. Behind me, Derek was still arguing with the fraud department. As the elevator doors closed, I heard him say, "My uncle must have misunderstood something." I went upstairs with the judge. Derek remained below, trying to explain why his company accounts had been frozen in front of the very people he had invited to prove he was successful. Derek came to my house at 9:12 the next morning. He did not knock politely. He pressed the bell 3 times, then called my phone from the porch. I opened the door but left the chain in place. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were red. Melissa sat in their car with her arms folded. "What did you do?" he asked. "I reported a forged loan. You froze everything. Payroll, supplier payments, the hotel project, everything." "The bank froze accounts connected to suspected fraud." He leaned closer to the gap in the door. "You could have called me. First, you signed my name to a $215,000 property agreement." I was going to explain. "When?" "As soon as the hotel deal closed." "The first payment already failed." He looked toward the street, then lowered his voice. "I made a temporary mistake. The company had a cash flow problem. I used the house as backup because I knew the loan would be paid off. It was not your house to use. I wasn't taking it from you. You gave a bank the right to take it." That stopped him for a few seconds. Then his voice changed. The anger disappeared, and he tried sadness instead. "My mother would be ashamed of this." I looked at him through the narrow opening Do not use your mother to defend forgery. She wanted us to look after each other. I did look after you. I transferred $6,400 in March. I guaranteed $48,000 in May. Yesterday, I paid $31,760 to close the credit line you had almost exhausted. His mouth opened slightly. You paid it? Yes. The bank has released me from that guarantee. Elaine Porter sent you a demand for repayment this morning. Derek rubbed both hands over his face. If you keep the fraud complaint active, I could lose the company. You may. I could be charged. That decision belongs to the bank and the authorities. What am I supposed to tell Melissa? What am I supposed to tell the employees? Tell them the truth. He stepped back, then pointed toward the house. You have money. You have no children. What was all that saving for if you won't help your own family? My savings were not permission. We're blood. Blood did not sign those papers. You did. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he asked the question he had really come to ask. Will you tell the bank it was a misunderstanding? No. Will you withdraw the affidavit? No. Will you at least call Judge Bennett? He knows people. He could calm this down. I almost smiled at that. Samuel Bennett spent his career protecting the law. He is the last person you should expect to excuse what you did. Derek's face tightened. So that's it? You're choosing strangers over family? No, I'm choosing facts over manipulation. I reached into the hallway and picked up Elaine's letter. This revokes your use of my address.